I think what I enjoy the most is making important, lasting relationships with people in the toy community. It's not finding that next Grail piece, because I've found some incredible pieces for nothing. I went to a flea market last year and found a Kip Killigan, and if you know Small Soldiers from Hasbro, that's the Grail in that line outside of an Archer. Found them for $5. Yeah, it's exciting. The thrill of the hunt is very exciting, but the thrill of being able to talk to people for hours about why they love toys is what I enjoy the most. My name's Cody Williamson, and I guess I'm a collector. I wouldn't consider myself a collector strictly because toys, collectibles, memorabilia has always been a part of my life from my very earliest toy memories. It's just been constantly around me due to my father. My father has always been a collector. He's been a huge influence in my collecting journey. And I think through osmosis, I kind of just picked all of this up just by being his son. He started being a comic collector, and I think his love of comics and pop culture and movies, all the different aspects that come along with the toys, really influenced me growing up. And I never had a conscious thought to start collecting or to amass, certain things. I was always around it. Growing up, my father would have just boxes and boxes of toys in our basement. So for me, I didn't necessarily have to go to the toy store to experience that rush as a kid. If I wanted to, I would ask him if I could go down to the basement and maybe pick out a toy. More often than not, I wouldn't be able to do that. But say I did my chores for the day or I mowed the lawn, if I poked and prodded just enough, I might be able to go into the basement and open just boxes of toys that he would buy on clearance. Because back in the day, a lot of you youngsters won't know about this, but we had a toy store called KB Toys. And there was a very famous 3 for $10 sale. So you could walk into KB Toys and spend a $10 bill that you've been holding on to for months, and you could walk out of there with a handful of toys. So going into my father's basement was kind of like visiting a KB Toys. I've never really been or considered myself a collector. It's just always been my life. I've always had a toy within reach. My father was my biggest influence for that. My earliest toy memory, my favorite thing to collect growing up was the LJNs and also the WWF Hasbro figures. To me, there is no action figure more toyetic than the WWF Hasbro figures. The likenesses are great, they're cartoony, but at the same time they're spot on. And they have actions. They have wonderful actions. The gorilla press throw, or the Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty, the Rockers tag team set. They would you'd push down on the neck, and the spring mechanism would make them jump. So most of the characters, Hasbro did a really good job of kind of matching up the correct actions with what the wrestler would typically do. But as I've gotten older, my tastes have kind of shifted and changed. And over the years, I wouldn't say I specialize in one particular toy, but many different kinds. My passion for older toys comes from my father. I'm a big Captain Action guy. I love Ideal, and the fact that I think Captain Action, to the best of my knowledge, was the first real superhero action figure that boys could get in the scale of G.I. Joe. I want to say 66, 67 was when Captain Action hit the market from Ideal. And you got the Captain Action doll, who came in his trademark blue suit with his hat, his laser gun, and his sword. And then you could get the bonus sets to dress him up as Superman, or Sergeant Rock, or Aquaman, or the Lone Ranger. And I can't ever think of a time when a toy company had cross licenses from Marvel characters, independent comics. You had the Phantom as an outfit. So I'd say my love of the ultra vintage stuff came from from my father. Not that he ever had those or let me play with those, but we would watch old VHSs with toy commercials on them. And as a kid, when I saw these toys that you know, were in the 60s and 70s, he would be like, oh, I grew up with that, or I had this toy. And it really made me interested in exploring those toys, because let's be honest, those are the toys that laid the foundation for all of this. You know, those are the toys that were most important, because they you know, created basically everything you see now had to have been based on the earliest toys, right? There's always, you know, you get an idea, or you see this toy, you see this G.I. Joe or this Captain Action, and then, oh, we can do this better, or we can do an offshoot of this, and you know, things just naturally kind of progress. So what we got here is Commando Laser, a very popular, bootleg from Rabbit Toys, Argentina. So it's, you know, made in the 3 3/4 style of the G.I. Joe, but very hard to find, especially in the package. And the cool thing about this toy line is the card art is always unique to the character, which I find amazing when it comes to bootleg toys, the fact that the artist would go the extra mile to put the exact artwork of the character. Up here, Jackie Chan's rookie action figure. I don't know if another one in package even exists. This is made by City Toy. It's official Jackie Chan, 7.5-inch figure, comes with the soft goods karate cape. And the coolest thing about this, in my opinion, is the Dragon Ninja training manual, never issued anywhere else before, that's sitting behind his legs here. Who knows what that manual holds, but I hope it holds all the secrets of Kung Fu. Probably one of my most favorite pieces, this Galoob Galaxy Ranger, Shane the Gooseman. He was the only Galaxy Ranger who came with 2 holsters, because in the cartoon, he was the only Galaxy Ranger who shot 2 laser pistols, which makes him the coolest out of all 3 Galaxy Rangers, in my opinion. So this right here is the Tommy Street Hero. And I would like to say that this is modeled right after Final Fight, even down to the character in the red gi, which is obviously Guy. You know, you've got a Jason lookalike character, a couple of street thugs, some broken pipes, a knife, pickups that you would find on the ground in these beat-em-ups. But anyway, so this is how it works. And the counter on the side here counts how many knockouts you have. How many badges can you beat in the time limit? Because the timer right here that runs. Lately, I've just been into the most obscure toys. If it's something that you've never seen before, I think that's my favorite thing to chase now. Something that you typically wouldn't have seen on a Kmart shelf, or something that you wouldn't have seen in Toys R Us. For instance, Hal Needham, the stuntman, made by Gabriel. It's like, you've probably never even seen that. Hal Needham was a famous stuntman, you know, worked on Smokey and the Bandit, and I'm sure other, but it's like, that's the sort of toy that I love to chase, because nobody's ever heard of that. You know, it's crazy how many toys over the years are forgotten and go under the radar. And I think those are my favorite pieces to unearth, especially when they're mint in box. That's always fascinated me. How does something survive that long untouched? So I would say overall, I'm into the wrestling, I'm into the lucha libre, I'm into the fantasy stuff, I'm into, you know, it's mostly all vintage until very recently, when I've been getting into 1/6 scale stuff that I don't have much of. I have a few pieces that I like, but only recently have I started to get into more modern toys. And I'd say my favorite modern toy line that is currently being done right now is the Mattel WWE Superstars. And the reason I love those figures is because they're reminiscent of the classic AWA Remco figures. They have that big muscular body in the 5.5 scale. Soft goods clothing, which is a big deal for me. I love soft goods. I'm a big soft goods guy. You know, if it comes with a cloth robe, or, you know, some sort of vest, I love that, because it's, in my opinion, a tribute to the classic toys that I grew up with, and the toys that came before me even. Sentimental value definitely plays a big role in what I consider to be my grails. I would say my entire WWF Hasbro collection is probably my biggest grail, sentimentally, because all those figures that you see in that glass display are from my childhood. Growing up, I played with all of those. I still have the accessories with them. It's not a complete set, but it's almost everybody. I've got some of the green cards, the harder to find series, on the wall hanging up over there. You know, the Atom Bomb and Bart and Billy Guns. I remember playtime with those the most. I remember playing with the classic blue ring, and I would spend hours in my room setting up these massive Royal Rumbles with, 50 figures everywhere, and I would pose them, and I would just stand back as a kid and just look at these giant battles that I would create and just feel a sense of accomplishment. My favorite piece that I would say that is very obscure that I have is going to be the Slade Super Agent. He was made by Shindana Toys in 1975. In my opinion, it's Richard Roundtree, who, if you're not familiar with the actor, he was Shaft, the original Shaft, and the design of the box, the design of the character, he matches in perfectly with one of my favorite toy lines to collect, which is the Mattel Big Jim series. I would say that's probably one of my most expensive pieces. The original Kenner Indiana Jones, that's up there too. That's, $1,000 piece, mint on card, sometimes a little bit more depending on condition. I've got the complete set of the LJN Indiana Jones figures. Those are expensive as well. They're definitely up there. Mola Ram you hardly ever see for less than 400 bucks. I've got Indy, Giant Thuggy, Mola Ram. Love those figures. I have so much love for LJN because the stuff that they did do in the action figure world and in the video game world is legendary. They're kind of famous for making some of the worst Nintendo games of all time, but in my opinion, they're some of the best, even though they're ridiculously hard to play. I met my wife 2019, and we ended up getting married right around when COVID had just hit. She knew what she was getting into, being in a relationship with me. One of our first dates, when she came over, she saw the toys on the wall. She probably thought I was a huge weirdo. And at the time, she didn't speak too much English. So we were communicating almost strictly with Google Translate, which was super interesting. I'd never had really experienced anything quite like it, trying to cultivate a relationship with a woman who didn't speak the language. It was fun, but at the same time difficult because there was quite a language barrier. So flash forward a little bit, she knew, I was into toys, I was into collectibles. Tried to not be too involved with that around her because I didn't want to scare her away. When you're really into somebody, you probably don't want to, say, hey, I'm this huge super nerd and, I care about these little plastic men so much. It came to a point where, we started to get serious and we were looking at getting married and kind of, seeing what journey we could go on together. And it came to a point, she actually said, we can do something with this. We can do something more than just having it sit around. Unfortunately, the Secret Toy Society was born out of necessity. She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. We had kind of come together to brainstorm an idea where we could monetize my hobby and my passion, and maybe we could build something from the ground up to support, my dreams, my passion, but also something she could do from home and not have to physically exert herself and doing some sort of job, standing 10 hours on her feet all day. So the Secret Toy Society was born out of my love for toys, my passion for toys, and she saw how passionate I was. And I think through osmosis, she started to become passionate for toys as well, because before this, she would help me to repair some of my toys. Doctora Juguetes is one of her aliases, which I believe is like, I'm not the best with Spanish, but it translates to, like the female version of the toy doctor. So she would repair some of my toys. She found unique and innovative ways to help me, flatten out card backs and just doing different things over the years with my toys. She would paint some of my things that I needed a really good paint job on, and she wasn't necessarily interested in the toys in the beginning, but I think she started to get a love for them, especially after she realized there was actual monetary value behind them and you could make money doing this. So I'd say the Secret Toy Society was born out of our unique union together. She didn't necessarily like toys in the beginning, but through watching me over the years and seeing how passionate I was with other folks, we really created a little niche that is pretty special to us now. What really makes it worth it to continue doing this and to source rare toys from all around the world is the spark you get in someone's eye when you have that piece. Or just the other day, I had 2 of the rarest Rambo figures in my personal collection, and somebody had messaged me about them, and I said, you know what, I've got those 2 figures for you. And you know, he was so excited, and this was a man, you know, in his 40s or 50s who I just met on the internet, and you know, we shipped him to him just a couple of days ago, and he messages me every day now saying how excited he is, and that is what matters. You know, it's not the toys itself, but it's the fact that you were able to provide somebody with that touch of nostalgia. I think that the Secret Toy Society is a unique web shop for vintage toys and collectibles because we offer products that you don't see every day. These are not products that you're going to find in stores. For the most part, I do like to include newer toys, modern toys that are popular, but mostly we specialize in vintage toys that are extremely hard to source. As my wife is from Guadalajara, Mexico, so one of our biggest things that we specialize in, and I'd say we probably have one of the most impressive collections, is the Kellyan AAA Luchador figures. They were made by Kellyan, but they didn't have the Luchador's permission. So essentially, these wrestlers weren't paid for these action figures. So a lot of the times, when you would bring these figures to the Luchador to sign in the early 90s, they would just scoff at you because, you know, kids were bringing them all the time probably, and they didn't want to sign them because they didn't see a penny for those particular toys. You can find all sorts of different collectibles at the Secret Toy Society. Vintage wrestling collectibles, you know, vintage, if you look behind me here, you can find G.I. Joes and Cowboys and popular toy lines like Cops and Crooks from Hasbro, and just toy lines that they're loved and they're popular, but they're not on everybody's radar. I think the majority of collectors tend to focus on the most popular licenses like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and you know, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Transformers. And I'm not putting those toy lines down, but every Tom, Dick, and Harry has those toys, do you know what I'm saying? And it's hard, but it's very worth it when you find that one collector who's been looking for this piece for years. I've been looking for, I don't know how to pronounce it exactly correctly, it's Gashapon or something. It's basically a little capsule figure that you would get in Japan, little muscle figures out of the vending machine. Probably my favorite video game franchise of all time, made by Capcom, Final Fight. They're rubber figures that you would get out of the quarter machines in the early 90s. Final Fight 2 in particular. And I just completed a set literally yesterday. And I think I've been looking for those toys for 15 years. And the fact that I was able to, you know, get a full set plus extras, I'm gonna offer up the extras, of course, on the website. And that's the sort of thing that you can find on the Secret Toy Society. You know, most of the time when I show my wife a toy that I'm so excited about, like those Final Fight characters that I got in the mail the other day, I'm so excited about them, and I can express how excited I am, but more often than not, she'll just roll her eyes like, because you know, she's not a crazy lunatic like me, which is, you know, it's good. It's a good balance because she levels me out, and I come back around to not being so focused on the actual toys or the physical object themselves. I think I really appreciate the friendships I've been able to cultivate with internet strangers through Instagram and through other online platforms. That keeps me going. You know, meeting people like you guys is what I cherish the most, and is the reason why we do what we do. I have my own personal profile at the Retrobarbarian. Retrobarbarian is my name, my alias, the wild-maned maniac, I like to call myself. You can find us at thesecrettoysociety.com. That's going to be where you're going to see what we have to offer for sale, and also on Instagram at The Secret Toy Society. My wife's personal toy page is Dra. Juguetes, and that's where you're going to see her toy content. And together, we've come together to form the Secret Toy Society. So you can find us at those particular Instagram pages, as well as thesecrettoysociety.com.